Okay, I think. One Rabbi.
Okay.
Here we go. Have to turn the camera around. Okay. Make sure everybody is muted. All right. I'm hoping this will do the trick. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wonderful to be back here in Beit Knesset Hanassi. Tomorrow morning, in honor of the fact that we will be back, we're going to recite Hallel. In the Parsha of Mishpatim, we have the Dalet Shomrim, the four types of people who take upon themselves responsibility to guard property which is not theirs. So there is the Gemara in Bava Metzia devotes a great deal of its text to explaining this concept, but it has broader ramifications always than just the legal ramifications. You can't, I keep on mentioning the Torah has to be seen at many different levels. It can't just be seen at one level. If you see it at one level, you miss it. You don't really get it. You don't know what it's really telling you. And since the Torah is without limit, so there's room for every person and every generation to see it at its own level, at what it really means to it. So we have Shomer Chinam. Shomer Chinam is somebody, I'm doing you a favor. You tell me, I'm going to Ranana for Shabbos. I don't have where to park my car. Can I park my car in your parking space, in your garage? I'm a sport. Why not? I don't expect to get paid, and I won't get paid. And you park the car there. God forbid the car gets stolen. I'm not liable. Shomer Chinam is potter on Geneva Vaveda. He's potter, he's not liable if something is stolen or if something is inadvertently lost. That's it. And he's certainly not liable for accidents or acts of God or something that occurred. But he's only chayiv for two things. He's chayiv if he used it, if I used the car, I didn't have permission. I drove the car. Now the car wasn't damaged, and I parked it back in the same spot, and then it got stolen. But now I'm responsible, because by using the car, I have assumed a responsibility for it. And the second is pshia, that I don't guard it reasonably. I left the car unlocked. I didn't close the gate. I don't do the normal things that a person would do to guard the property. So in those two instances, even though I'm not getting paid for guarding your car, nevertheless, I would be liable. There's a second class of shomer, who's a shomer sachar. You say to me, you want to park the car? And I say, 5 shekel an hour. Well, it's not nice of me, but we make an agreement. I'm getting paid 5 shekel an hour. It's going to be here 24 hours. You know, it's 120 shekel, whatever it is. And so then I am responsible, even if I didn't use the car, if the car is stolen or lost. Because by agreeing to take money, I agree to take greater responsibility. I've upped my liability. The Torah always sees things in balance. Shomer Chinam doesn't get anything, so his liability is minimal. And Shomer Socher does get something, his liability is greater. But a Shomer Socher is not liable. Let's say there was a great thunderstorm and the car was hit by lightning. I'm not responsible for that. That's onsim. It's an accident. And therefore, I have no responsibility for that. Now, there's a third person involved, a third type of person, who is a socher. He leases the car. Or rather, I lease the car from him. So there are 2 opinions in the Talmud, whether or not he is to be considered a shomer chinam, and therefore have minimal liability, or whether he's considered to be a shomer socher, someone that gets a benefit from it, and therefore he has a higher responsibility. And the conclusion of the Gemara is that he is a shomer socher. That since he derives, even though he's paying, even though I'm paying X number of shekel a day for renting the car, nevertheless I have a benefit from it. And that benefit is enough to make me a shomer socher, to make me liable if the car is stolen or lost. The fourth and last type of shomer that the Gemara discusses, that the Torah discusses, is a shoel. Shoel is, I borrow it. I have to go pick something up. Would you lend me your car? If you're foolish enough to say yes, so then I am a shoel. I borrow the car, and that by borrowing the car, now I accept upon myself the highest level of liability because I'm not paying for it. I have full benefit of it. And therefore, if something happens to it, I'm liable. There are only 2 instances where my liability is reduced or eliminated. One is that if you ride in the car with me, Ba'ol of Imo, the owner is there together, so then I can say, listen, it's your bad luck, not just mine. Now, you were there. You saw I didn't do anything wrong, and we got a flat tire or whatever, but you were there. And the second case where there's that's excluded from liability, if it's mesa machmas malocha, if in the ordinary use of the item breaks, it's used up. So for instance, if I borrow a lead pencil from you and I say I want to use it for a month, and I sharpen it, and I give you back half a lead pencil, you can't say, but I gave you a full lead pencil. Because it's obvious that if I borrow a lead pencil from you, I intend to write with it, use it. And I used it in the usual and ordinary way that people use lead pencils, and therefore I'm not liable. Those are the 4 types of shomrim that are discussed in this week's parsha. But the great Hasidic masters and the Balei Musar looked at it in a broader sense, not just in this narrow sense of borrowing a car. And they said, in a sense, all of us, the Rebbeinu Shalom entrusted us with our soul, gave us a gift. He gave us the gift of life. And because of that, therefore, there are various degrees of liability. So if a person's a shomer chinam, he never asks God for anything. He doesn't, he doesn't ask him for parnosa, he doesn't ask him for health, he doesn't ask him for shidduchim, he doesn't ask him for anything. He's a shomer chinam. So therefore, in heaven, he is judged to have the least amount of responsibility, right? So if he is not such a great person, okay, but he never asked you anything, he never bothered you. So we're going to let him go. Then there's a shomer socher. So the shomer socher already is a greater liability because I'm asking things. So we're always asking. Now, whether we're clever in what we are asking is a different lecture for which you didn't pay here tonight. But we're always asking. God should give us, give us. So there is a level of liability that is certainly greater. Nevertheless, if it's a complete accident, right, if I really didn't do anything wrong, so heaven will overlook it too. But then really we're a shoel. We're a borrower because we know it's not permanent. We're entrusted with it for a time under certain circumstances. So then we're always liable for what we do. We're always liable for what happens, with the exception, Ba'al Avimo, if the owner is with him, if a Jew feels that God is with him all the time, Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Somi, oh God, everything is God, right? So then he's not held liable. Because then he and God, so to speak, are going together. And also, Mesa Machmas Malocha. The man works on it, uses it, uses up half, 3/4 of the pencil. Well, if you used it correctly, if that was the purpose that you borrowed it for, you wanted to write with it, and now you're writing with it, etc., I can't hold you liable. So if the Rebbeinu Shalom gave us life and he gave us the neshama, but we used it correctly, we helped ourselves and others with it, we advanced the cause of Torah and of goodness and of the Jewish people, the cause of humanity generally, and you're put to. And heaven looks at you differently as well. So this idea of the 4 shomrim can be expanded to include a great philosophical view of life itself and how we view ourselves. And the manner in which we view ourselves determines what our liability is. And that's the idea that Chazal wanted us to have, that lies at the back and at the root of this halacha of Arba Shomri. Thank you, and stay well, and we'll see you all in shul.
Fascinating Hasidic Shavuot. Fascinating.
Only Misnagdim know how to deliver a Hasidic Shavuot correctly.
Mark, your phone. Your telephone. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, we're done. As soon as I figure out how to stop this thing. Okay, glad to. Glad.